Hello everyone, and this is the English Teacher's Guide to how to write a poem. Now I'm not going to tell you what to write, but hopefully after watching this video you'll understand how you can go about writing it. So these are the basic things that I think you need to consider when you're writing your poem. Remember, it can be about whatever you want it to be about. That's the wonderful thing about poetry, music, and don't forget many musicians write poems before they actually start to write their song lyrics. Remember, it doesn't have to rhyme, and this is called free verse, although there are a variety of different types of rhyme. Rhyming couplets, quatrain, heroic couplets, there's a sonnet form. There's a variety of different ways you can get your poem to work, and that's the wonderful thing about it. If you do want your work to rhyme, you must maintain that rhyme scheme unless you alter it deliberately to create a certain meaning. My example at the end does exactly that. Be interesting. Just like, again, any form of literature, any song, anything like that. Be interesting. I recommend that you research as well. Look at a variety of different poets to take inspiration. So modern writers, all of us really are familiar with Agard's Half-Caste, Karen Duffy, but think about our older writers, Wordsworth. Think about any variety of poets. Someone just inspires you, basically. Always read your work aloud, because only when you read your work aloud, particularly a poem, you're able to hear whether the syllabic structure works, the rhyme scheme works. Sometimes a basic error is that you write a line which is far longer than the rest and it just sounds odd. And unless, again, you're doing that deliberately, you don't want that to happen. And then redraft it, because no one ever writes anything perfectly the first time. Here's a method that I think you could use when writing poetry, because quite often it's the case that people think, well, how do I go about doing it in the first place? Well, one, I recommend you pick a topic that you want to write about. It could be something physical, like a football, a sponge. It could be a mirror. Or it could be an idea, love, loss, war, or an event, birthday, I don't know, it's someone's funeral, God forbid, which is an epigraph poem. That's up to you. Write down how you feel about that topic, and then that's the focus of your work. Poetry is very much emotionally led. What you might want to do is write a short outline for your poem. So roughly, what's going to happen in your work? What do you want to cover? And that way, you're not going to get lost in the middle of it. You're not going to know the direction you wish to head in. Then I'd also create a list of interesting images, similes, metaphors, personification, extended metaphors, allusions, whatever you want to use, and vocabulary that you could use in your work. Once you've got that, just simply begin to write it. And if you decide to use rhyme, what I recommend is you don't just simply put any old word at the end of the line. Consider whether that word would work well with your rhyme scheme. Again, this is where you may need, as you write, to redraft it. I would consider a really clean looking poem the first time writing as being wrong in some way. I'd want to see my poets scribbling bits out, changing bits. That's what you need to do. Then either at the end or during the writing, as we mentioned earlier, keep reading it aloud to hear if it makes sense, hear if it's what you want the message to be. Finally, make any alterations that you require, and then celebrate and share. So here's a quick go that I've had. Well, I say quick, again, I redrafted it time and time again. So the poem's called Found. I found him on a blood-stained field, clouding eyes, fate surely sealed. He was lying amongst the unchained souls, the ferryman that day had lowered his tolls. He coughed me close and told me of love for his darling wife, his mourning dove. Her soft milk skin, her eyes of blue. He laughed and said she'd surely like you. We laughed through tears, but I couldn't see his lighter days, only now his misery. We cried for his kids, his sister, his brother, of walks in the park, the voice of his mother. He spoke of a memory not long ago, a dance in a hall, a weekend at Bow. He asked me if they would be proud. I whimpered, son, you stood out of the crowd. And with that, he turned his head and died. And you can see, so planned it through. Hopefully you like that. I mean, it's up to you if you do or you didn't. But think about your use of punctuation as well, because obviously if there's no punctuation at the end of a line, that's enjambment. That means you now need to keep reading quickly rather than stopping. But thank you very much. And what I'd love to see is your work. So please feel free in the comments boxes below. Obviously share, obviously like and things like that. But please add your work to the end, and let's see if we can get some kind of literary group going with this as well. Thank you very much, and keep working hard. Well done.